What if I told you that the Las Vegas Strip, once called America's playground, is no longer for Americans at all? Behind the flashing neon lights and billion-dollar resorts, something disturbing is happening. Ordinary Americans, the very people who built Sin City's legend with cheap rooms, $5 buffets, and loose slots, are quietly disappearing from the Strip. And the casinos? They don't seem to care. Walk into a luxury suite tonight, and you'll find high rollers from China, oil magnates from the Middle East, and wealthy gamblers from Europe, but almost no families from Ohio or tourists from Texas. The drinks now cost $25. The affordable rooms are stacked with hidden resort fees and parking that will drain another $40 from your wallet. So here's the chilling question. Did Las Vegas just turn its back on Americans? Or was this part of a calculated plan all along to replace the middle class with the ultra-rich from overseas? In the next few minutes, we'll uncover how the Strip is transforming into a private playground for foreign elites, why casinos have chosen outsiders over their own people, and what this shocking shift means for the future of America's most famous city of sin. Because if Las Vegas no longer belongs to Americans, then who does it belong to? There was a time when Las Vegas Strip was buzzing with families from Chicago, college kids from California, and retirees from Florida, all coming for the same promise: cheap fun with big rewards. It was the city where you could fly in for $99 round trip, grab a room for $49 a night, and eat until you couldn't move at a buffet that barely cost $5. That mix of affordability and spectacle was the magic formula that made Vegas the entertainment capital of the world. But step onto the Strip in 2025, and the picture couldn't be more different. The streets are still glowing with neon, the casinos are still buzzing with music, yet the faces are no longer the same. The crowds of middle-class Americans have thinned out, replaced by clusters of wealthy visitors speaking Mandarin, Arabic, or French. The Strip looks full, but for ordinary Americans, it feels eerily empty, like they've been written out of their own story. What happened? The shift didn't come overnight. Over the last decade, costs in Las Vegas have spiraled out of control. A simple room that once cost $49 now comes with a $45 resort fee stacked on top, plus $25 parking plus taxes. That so-called cheap getaway can quickly snowball into hundreds of dollars before you even sit down at a slot machine. Drinks that were once free while you played are now billed at $25 a cocktail. A family of 4 could once vacation in Vegas for a weekend under $1,000 today. That number barely covers the hotel bill. Americans noticed. Social media exploded with posts declaring Vegas is a scam and never again. Online forums fill with angry tourists describing how they felt tricked by hidden fees, overpriced meals, and cold service. For many, the magic broke and they stayed home. Yet the casinos didn't panic. In fact, they seemed to double down on the very things that were driving Americans away. Why? Because while middle-class Americans were leaving, another group was stepping in. High rollers from China, business tycoons from Dubai, and wealthy gamblers from London didn't blink at a $50,000 suite or a $10,000 night at the baccarat table. What pushed the American middle class away drew the global elite closer. And here's the part no one talks about. Casinos are deliberately reshaping the Strip for these international guests. Marketing campaigns in Shanghai and Dubai promise all-inclusive packages with private jets, exclusive shows, and access to experiences most Americans will never even hear about. Restaurants now boast Michelin-starred chefs' menus written in multiple languages and wine lists priced in the thousands. The Strip is still alive, but it's alive for someone else. For the first time in its history, Las Vegas is becoming a city where Americans feel like outsiders. The question is, was this just an accident of rising costs, or was it part of a larger strategy all along? To understand why the Strip no longer feels like home for Americans, you have to follow the money. For decades, Las Vegas relied on the American middle class, millions of tourists who might not be rich, but came in huge numbers. They filled up the cheap rooms, packed the buffets, and played quarter slots late into the night. It wasn't about how much each person spent, it was about volume. The more Americans who showed up, the more the casinos made. But something changed after the 2008 financial crisis, and then again during the pandemic. The middle class shrank, wages didn't keep up with inflation, and the cost of living in America skyrocketed. By 2025, an average family could no longer justify a weekend splurge in Vegas, when rent, groceries, and gas already stretched their paychecks. For many Americans, Vegas stopped being an affordable escape. It became an impossible luxury. Casinos saw the numbers. Domestic visitation rates dropped, but they noticed something else too. When foreign tourists came, they spent far more than locals ever did. A wealthy gambler from Beijing might drop $100,000 in a single night at a baccarat table. A group of investors from Dubai might book an entire floor of suites, spending more in one weekend than a dozen American families combined. Even European tourists chasing a taste of classic Vegas often spent triple what Americans did on food, drinks, and entertainment. So the math became obvious: why fight for the dollars of an American family stretching their budget when a single VIP from overseas could cover that loss? 10 times over, casinos began re-engineering the Strip. They cut back on $5 buffets and replaced them with luxury dining experiences run by Michelin star chefs from Paris and Tokyo. They remodeled entire casino floors into high-stakes gaming salons reserved for international players, sometimes accessible only by private invitation. Entertainment shifted too. Shows once geared toward mass audiences were replaced with exclusive residencies by global superstars, where front-row tickets sold for $5,000 each. And behind the scenes, the partnerships told the real story. Mega casinos signed deals with Chinese tour operators, Middle Eastern luxury travel agencies, and European event planners. Package deals included first-class flights, limousine pickups straight from McCarran Airport, and guaranteed spots at VIP tables. Entire sections of the Strip now operate like private clubs for the wealthy elite, while the old attractions, cheap food, affordable rooms, value gambling quietly vanished. It's not just about money, it's about psychology. American tourists want value. They want to feel like they got more than what they paid for the free drinks, the comped buffet, the discount hotel. But foreign tourists, especially the ultra-rich, don't care about value. They want prestige. They want exclusivity. They want to say they stayed in a $40,000 suite overlooking the Strip, drank champagne flown in from France, and gambled in a room only accessible to millionaires. Casinos discovered that catering to this mentality was far more profitable. And so slowly but surely they abandoned their old customers. This is why the Strip feels empty to Americans. It isn't that the casinos are dying, it's that they've chosen someone else. The lights are still shining, but the seats once reserved for everyday tourists have been replaced by velvet ropes and VIP passes. For the first time, Vegas has drawn a line in the sand: locals on one side, global elites on the other. But here's the question that haunts the city. What happens when a place built on the loyalty of the American dream turns its back on the very people who gave it life? The glitter of the Las Vegas Strip hides a much darker truth, one that the casinos don't want you to see. While they chase billionaires from China, Dubai, and London, the very people who live and work in Las Vegas are being pushed to the edge. For decades, the Strip wasn't just a tourist destination, it was the lifeline for tens of thousands of dealers, waiters, bartenders, entertainers, and hotel staff. When middle-class Americans came in droves, these workers thrived. Every slot player tipped their server, every family who hit the buffet meant hours of steady wages, every cheap room filled kept housekeeping employed. Now, as the Strip shifts toward foreign elites, that ecosystem is collapsing. Ordinary workers don't benefit when one millionaire spends $200, $1,000 in a private baccarat room. High rollers don't tip generously. Their spending vanishes into the casino's vaults, bypassing the staff who once depended on a steady stream of everyday customers. The result? Tips have dried up, jobs have been cut, and entire departments have been downsized. Talk to longtime locals and you'll hear the same story. A former cocktail waitress explains how she once made over $500 a night in tips from middle-class gamblers. Today, she struggles to clear $100 even working longer hours. A A blackjack dealer admits his table sits empty unless a VIP event is in town, leaving him with unpredictable income. Many entertainers who performed in affordable shows for tourists have been laid off, replaced by blockbuster residencies that only the wealthy can afford. The pain doesn't stop at the casinos. Rising demand for luxury real estate by foreign investors has driven housing costs through the roof. Average rent in Las Vegas has soared past $1,800 a month, pushing casino workers and service employees further out into the desert suburbs. Some now commute over 90 minutes each way just to serve drinks to guests who will never know their names. Others live in cramped apartments or even in their cars, unable to afford the very city they help keep alive. This is the hidden paradox. The more Las Vegas earns from international elites, the less its own people benefit. The Strip glitters brighter than ever, but behind that facade, ordinary residents feel abandoned, like the city has turned its back on them, just as it has on American tourists. And then there's the emotional toll. For many Americans, Vegas wasn't just about gambling, it was about belonging. It was a place where anyone rich or poor could walk into a casino and feel like they had a shot at something big. But now locals say it feels like they've been locked out of their own home. As one resident bitterly put it, "Vegas doesn't want us anymore. We're just the help." This shift is leaving scars. Crime is creeping up in neighborhoods far from the Strip as economic pressure squeezes families. Workers who once counted on casino jobs as stable careers are leaving for other states, creating a quiet exodus from a city that once promised opportunity. The divide between the shimmering Strip and the struggling locals grows wider with every passing year. Las Vegas may look like it's thriving, but the reality is this: when the casinos stop caring about Americans, both the tourists and the residents, the city's foundation begins to crack. And the question looming over Sin City is chilling. How long can a city survive if the very people who built it can no longer afford to live, work, or even visit there? Behind the closed doors of the towering resorts on the Las Vegas Strip, a silent alliance has taken shape, one that explains why casinos no longer chase the average American dollar. The truth is, both the casino giants and the state of Nevada are reaping massive rewards from this transformation. Casinos no longer see value in attracting a family of four from Ohio who might spend $2,000 over a weekend. Why bother when a single foreign high roller can gamble away $500,000 in one night? For casino executives, the math is undeniable. Catering to wealthy elites from China, Saudi Arabia, or Russia delivers faster, bigger profits with less hassle. But here's the twist: it's not just the casinos that benefit, it's the government too. The state of Nevada thrives on gaming taxes. The more money gambled, the more the government collects. When casinos funnel billions from international elites into their coffers, the tax revenue skyrockets. Politicians can then boast about rising state income, even as locals complain about vanishing jobs and soaring rents. In other words, the suffering of ordinary Nevadans is being quietly ignored in exchange for record-breaking tax checks. Behind the scenes, deals are struck to make this system run smoothly. Visa fast-tracks private charter flights landing directly at McCarran International Airport, and discreet arrangements for overseas billionaires ensure the Strip's new clientele arrives without obstacles. Entire casino suites priced at $50,000 a night are booked months in advance by foreign guests, while average Americans fight to find a motel room they can still afford. Restaurants tell a similar story. Where once there were endless $9.99 buffets, now there are dining rooms curated by chefs flown in from Paris, Tokyo, or Dubai, offering menus with price tags that could pay an American family's rent for a month. Even the entertainment industry has shifted gears. Instead of affordable magic shows and comedy nights, tickets for headliners like Adele or U2 start at $500 and climb to thousands. Locals can't dream of attending, but international elites see it as pocket change. And here's the part few dare to say out loud: foreign elites are not just tourists, they're investors. Billionaires from overseas are buying up pieces of the Strip, pouring money into resorts, real estate, and infrastructure. Every new investment cements the shift in power, giving outsiders more control over the city than the very people who live there. Las Vegas, once America's playground, is quietly becoming a global asset portfolio. Even law enforcement and regulators look the other way. As long as the money keeps flowing, few ask uncomfortable questions about where that money comes from. Concerns over money laundering or ties to foreign political interests are brushed aside, buried under the glowing promise of economic growth. The casinos protect their investors, and the government protects its tax base. The losers. Ordinary Americans, both the workers and the tourists who no longer have a seat at the table. It's a strategy born from survival, but executed with ruthless precision. Atlantic City serves as the cautionary tale. Once a booming casino hub, it collapsed when Americans stopped showing up because it had no backup plan. Las Vegas studied that failure and chose a different path: internationalization at any cost. In doing so, it guaranteed short-term survival, but at the expense of its soul. This is the uncomfortable truth: Las Vegas doesn't need Americans anymore. Not as gamblers, not as tourists, not even as workers. The Strip has been rewired to serve the ultra-rich from abroad. And while the profits may look dazzling on paper, one question remains: what happens when a city sells its identity for quick cash? The future of Las Vegas is being written right now, and the question no one dares to ask is simple. Can a city built on the dreams of everyday Americans survive once those Americans are gone? If you walk the Strip today, the writing is already on the walls. The cheap buffets gone, the discount rooms buried under $45 resort fees, the family-friendly deals that once lured millions from Texas, Ohio, and Florida vanished. In their place stands a glittering empire designed for billionaires, not for the middle class. If the trend continues, Vegas may transform into something closer to Monaco than the Las Vegas Americans remember. A playground reserved for the elite where locals serve as invisible workers and Americans are mere spectators to the wealth of foreign tourists. Imagine a Strip where 90% of visitors are international, where average tourists no longer bother because they can get more value at Disney World or on a Caribbean cruise. It sounds extreme, but that's exactly the path Vegas is on. The consequences could be devastating. As everyday Americans vanish from the Strip, brand loyalty disappears too. Vegas was never just about gambling. It was about identity. It was where bachelor parties, anniversaries, and spontaneous road trips turned into unforgettable memories. It was the city where even a bus driver from Kansas could feel like a king for one night. Strip away that accessibility, and what's left is a hollow city that no longer resonates with the American soul. There's also the risk of over-reliance. If Vegas bets everything on foreign elites, what happens when global crises strike? The COVID-19 pandemic proved how fragile international travel can be. Borders closed, flights canceled, and the Strip turned into a ghost town. Locals still remember the eerie silence of March 2020 when casinos boarded up and tens of thousands lost their jobs overnight. If Vegas depends too heavily on wealthy foreigners, the city could collapse again the moment global travel slows. And then there's the cultural cost. Vegas built its legend on being the people's city of sin, the one place where everyone, no matter their background, could buy a ticket to escape reality. If it becomes an exclusive resort for billionaires, it loses the very essence that made it world famous. It will shine brighter, but for fewer people. It will make more money, but for fewer pockets. In the process, it risks becoming irrelevant to the very nation it once symbolized. The future may look glamorous for casino executives and politicians counting tax dollars, but for Americans, it feels like betrayal. They see a Strip that once belonged to them, now fenced off by velvet ropes and guarded by private security for foreign elites. They see their own families priced out of vacations, their neighbors forced into long commutes, their traditions erased for the sake of profits. So here's the haunting question. When Las Vegas, the crown jewel of American entertainment, no longer belongs to Americans, what does that say about the rest of the country? Is Vegas the warning sign that America itself is being reshaped for outsiders while its own people are left behind? The City of Light still burns bright in 2025, but its glow carries a different meaning now. It's no longer the beacon of affordable escape. It's the symbol of what happens when corporations and governments decide that ordinary citizens no longer matter. And that is the gamble Vegas has taken, trading the loyalty of millions of Americans for the wealth of a few thousand elites. The dice have been rolled. The question is, will the city win or will it lose? The one thing money can't buy its soul. So here we are, Las Vegas 2025, a city that still shines brighter than almost anywhere else on Earth, but no longer shines for the people who once made it great. The cheap rooms, the $5 buffets, the sense that this city belongs to everyone, all of it has been replaced by velvet ropes, luxury suites, and billion-dollar deals designed for people flying in from China, Dubai, or London. The Strip isn't dying. In fact, it's more profitable than ever. But it's profitable for someone else, for the ultra-rich outsiders who see Vegas not as an escape, but as a playground where money is no object. Ordinary Americans, meanwhile, find themselves on the outside looking in, priced out of their own dream city. And that leaves us with one haunting question. If Las Vegas no longer belongs to Americans, then what else might be taken away next? Because this isn't just about the Strip. It's about the direction of the country itself, about what happens when the middle class is no longer the priority, when ordinary people are replaced by global elites, and when even the most iconic American city decides it doesn't need America anymore. So, I'll ask you, if you walked the Strip today and saw what it's become, would you still call it America's City of Dreams, or just another playground for the rich?